Hi once again. I'm going to talk about factions. Factions is something to consider with every class, and infantry kind of have to adapt to what archers and cav that faction has. So it's a topic by itself. Um, I'm going to do them one by one. What I believe that the factions' benefits are, and how you should maybe think about them as well. Starting out with Swadia. Swadia is an all-round class. Uh, for all classes, they can kind of have everything. As infantry, you have the swords, you have two-handed swords, shields, you have good enough all pikes, and you got some darts if you have to do ranged fighting as well. So you can do the close, you can be anti-cav, and you can deal with range as well. So therefore, I think that Swadia is just a go-to faction if you're really not specific into what kind of playing style you have, or you're not sure who you're going to face, or how many cav or archery they have on their side. Second faction I want to discuss is Nords. Nords are they have swords, which, in my opinion, have one of the best swords in game. But they're mainly known for their axes as well as their two-handed. They're mainly axes. Um, they have really solid shields as well, so you can last a very long time for quite cheap amount of money if you shield up correctly. Uh, but they're not really defensive based. They're really aggressive based. If you pick Nords, you kind of want to group up in a bunch and just go together to a target. So if you're with 5 other infantry, you don't want to spread out. You always want to stick together and just be super aggressive and try to go deal with anything as one storm cloud. Then to oppose that, the faction Nords, I chose Rodok to be the next one. Mainly because Rodoks, they have a board shield. They're really heavy in weight, but they also have good durability and resistance. So if you're going to deal with axes, which breaks shields really easily, then Rodok would be the faction to choose because they have a very long-lasting shield. And I really like, if you play it right, it covers up well. Um, Rodoks are kind of known for their crossbows and um, their infantry as spearmen. You might notice this in single player as well. They have a lot of anti-cav. So if you're gonna deal with a faction that has a lot of cav, or that people tend to pick because of the good cavalry play, then Rodek would be your faction. As well as going against Nords, I think they kind of go hand in hand, just to deal with that axe shield breaking situation. Next up is the Vagers. Vagers are just, in my opinion, the best faction. Um, Archery and pretty much cav as well wise. Some people debate it, everyone has his preferences, of course. As infantry, you don't really have that much purpose, but you do get the scimitars, and the scimitars are really good because they kind of have um, the rounded swords. What scimitars are really. So therefore, when you go in a certain angle, which I'll explain in my later tutorials, sometimes you get like a bounce because you're in a too close space and you really can't like let go the full swing. With scimitars, because they are round, they just like they skid off the enemy, and therefore they're known as the spamming weapons. So you can play Veigar however you want, but it's mainly based around your other classes that will support you. So you kind of have to hold places and just be a meat shield, and when they come in, you go for the kill. With them as their main attribute, I gave them kiting. As infantry, it's not the most interesting faction. Um, But with the scimitars, if you play correctly, you can actually build up figures to be not kiting, but more like North Star and be aggressive that way. So it really depends on who you're playing with and who you're playing against. The Serenets are next. I think they go hand in hand against Fagers, um, because Fagers are kitey. Serenets have really vulnerable cavalry, and their archery is really bad as well. So they're really based upon their infantry, which is the complete opposite of Fager. But because of that, if you go and fight in the open, you probably get shot down pretty fast, or hit down pretty fast by their cav. So what you gotta keep in mind with Serenades is that you want to fight in a closed range instead of the open ranged, because they're kind of like the opposites of Vega. So if you can force that situation where you're in Serenade and you can force the Vegas to go in an alley or something, usually Serenade has the benefits there, compared to a Vega. If they can draw the Serenades into open, they have the benefits. And last faction, which doesn't show up much in multiplayer, is the Gurgit faction. The reason it doesn't show up that much is because a lot of people think they're kind of overpowered. And with that said, their archery gets a horse to ride with as well as their cavalry. So the only ground force is the infantry, and they have sabers, which do a really huge amount of damage and has that range. They don't have good shields at all, but yeah, it's something that you gotta like benefit out with the team play that you have from the archers and the cavalry. Um, you won't see them that much. There's not much to say. In my experience, I don't have much to say about it because I haven't really played that much that faction. But what I could note about this one is that they're just mount based. So as infantry, you won't be getting like all the fun out of this one compared to all the factions I mentioned above. So those are a few key points that I have and a few things that you gotta keep in mind. If you can play a faction differently than I think and I have noted down as I play them, that is good for you, and I would love to hear them in the comments.